You.
I'm doing great. I am watching out my patio we have what we call a pretty snow. You know, that pretty snow, but it's also gauged by the fact, do you have to leave the house or not? It's much prettier when you don't have to leave the house.
Yeah, definitely know the difference between a pretty snow and a non-pretty snow. There's ones that fall with the big snowflakes versus the ones that fall when there's a 30
Yeah.
mile an hour wind and ice and
Mhm.
all of that.
And there's ice underneath it, yeah. My, I have about 30 birds out here who are saying, "Hey, lady, you were here yesterday with your bird food." So I put some out for them, and um, they're telling all their friends here. So it's good entertainment.
Yeah, I have about a half a dozen squirrels that like to play tag out in my backyard. And then I don't know, for some reason, the doves congregate. But what's funny is that I assume one of the doves must have carried some Milo seed. They go to this Milo field not too far from here and eat. And so I had one stalk of Milo. So my son always teases me about my Milo crop. But
You're going to make big money off of that.
yeah, but those birds, it must be like a dessert because they fight over who can sit on that Milo stalk and pick at the Milo seeds. And it's interesting, the different birds and the doves, but the king is the bluebird. When the bluebird comes around, they know to get out of the way because he's the king.
Yeah, I got one of those too. Yeah.
Well, I think we'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Um, we'll go through a roll call here for county's benefit. So, begin, Sandra,
Here, good morning.
Robin,
Present here.
Gary,
I'm here.
Ken,
I'm here.
Monica,
Here.
Sarah, Mike Brower, Mike Kagi, Keith,
Here.
Jason, all right. Well, we do have a quorum. I don't expect a long meeting today, so thanks for taking time for our first meeting of 2025. I will remind everyone that our meeting in February is, we moved it back a week. It's February 21st, and those that can make it in person will plan on it being a in-person meeting. Our first item of business is approval of the December board meeting minutes. Those were sent to you and would look for a motion to approve the December board minutes.
Move to approve. This is Robin.
This is Sandra, I second.
Robin moves, Sandra seconds. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Now we'll turn to Chris from the Attorney General's office to give us an update.
Thank you, Mr.
Chris?
Chair. Not a whole lot of updates for you, but I did want to go over three primary things. First, I think we discussed it last time, but if not, I'll reiterate that the AG's office, Sunflower, and the Opioid Resource Network are putting on a conference, one-day meeting sort of thing for municipalities who are participating in the Municipalities Fights Addiction Fund process. We're finalizing the details now and should be able to make an announcement of all the details next month, late next month. But we're anticipating that this will be a presentation opportunity for folks to come together to learn about how you can use your opioids dollars and discuss with other subdivisions, how they're spending their dollars, to work on collaboration strategies, operationalization strategies. So we're really excited about this project, this presentation. We'll probably have some additional information for the board at the February meeting and definitely at the March meeting. But we wanted to keep talking to folks so that if you have constituencies that are interested in participating in a conference to learn more about how to use their opioids dollars, we are encouraging folks to reach out to us, to stay paying attention to their email, so that we can put on the best presentation that we can. This is part of our ongoing effort to ensure that subdivisions have all of the resources they need to make effective decisions on what to do with these dollars. The second update I have for you is as requested in your packet, there was a document titled Opioid Settlement Payment Estimation Table by Calendar Year, which has the projections going forward starting in calendar year 2025 of how much money that the entire settlement program will generate. And then in the green box towards the lower middle part of the page, how much money will go into the Kansas Fights Addiction Fund and how much money will go into the Municipalities Fights Addiction Fund, so that you can see starting in calendar year 2025, we anticipate the KFAF will receive around $14.5 million. And as time goes on, it's will fluctuate a little bit. And then starting in 2032, it will drop rather precipitously going forward from there. A couple caveats with this document. Number one, you'll note that the Endo bankruptcy, the Purdue Pharma bankruptcy have nothing in those. While we've received the Endo payment already, we have no resolution on the Purdue bankruptcy, so that is obviously not projected out. And then this does not include any settlement that has not been finally ordered by the court. So we've talked about the Kroger settlement as reached, but it has not yet been finally ordered by the court. So once that is finally ordered by the court, that'll add some money. I would not anticipating it adding a considerable amount to any particular given year. But as new settlements, if there are new settlements going forward, they would be added to this chart and updated as time goes on. The other thing I'll note is that this chart is just an estimate. It is entirely possible these estimates will be wrong, and as time goes on, I strongly suggest putting a really big asterisk on whether or not that number is accurate. We're more likely to be accurate in the close years and more likely to be inaccurate as in the far out years, largely due to unpredictable things like whether or not a company declares bankruptcy, whether or not they accelerate their payments, and whether or not we ever have to pay administrative fees to the National Settlement Administrator. So a couple of things there to think about how this document works. And then finally, you'll note I did not include the actual recoveries for 21, 22, 23, or 24, as this is intended to be a projection going forward. Actual recoveries would be reported in a full version of this table, which I can generate if that's necessary, but this is really meant more as a planning tool rather than a report on the total recoveries to date. Any questions on those two updates currently? I have one more after that, but I figured I'd pause here.
Questions for Chris? Chris, just FYI, when you're presenting to the cities and counties, you might just indicate, we've talked as a board about doing collaboration with them perhaps. So just tell them to be aware that we're looking for ways to do that. Maybe they'll have some projects that they can reach out to us to present. So we're certainly open to that, and we'll be working on that over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I certainly will do so. And I do want to use your perfect segue there to talk about my third and final update, which is an opportunity for collaboration that was suggested to Krista and I, and that we may want to have a formal presentation of the board at the February meeting, but we wanted to first present the idea and then gauge if there were questions that needed to be answered at a more formal presentation. So first and foremost, the Kansas Department of Aging and Disability Services, along with SAC, and I'm trying to remember what the acronym for, the Substance Abuse Center of Kansas, would like to join a collaborative project with the KFAB to fund a new medical detox center in Sedgwick County as part of a expanded service offering in Sedgwick County. So currently, they are operating nearly a full continuum of care in Sedgwick County in one facility. That's the plan, is to basically put all of it in one facility so that you can just go door to door as necessary for different elements of treatment. But one thing they do not currently have available is medically assisted detox. They have social detox, but as I understand it, medical detox is a far more effective approach when it is necessary. And there's really, according to SAC, there's not a single provider that offers medical detox to individuals who are uninsured, underinsured, or have Medicaid. And this would be the first provider that would for not only medical detox, but also this entire continuum of care. What they would like to do is come present their idea, both KDADS and SAC, to the board to suggest or see if there's an opportunity for a responsive grant-making targeted grant to help in the construction of this medical detox facility. We can talk about parameters. We can talk about the what would that request look like? What would that responsive grant proposal look like? And we can also have them come give a presentation about what it is they're trying to do, why they're trying to do it, and how this kind of approach meets the stated goals of the board for collaboration. The final thing I'll note on this is that one of the ideas that we've been discussing at the staff level is how do we help you develop the framework to be effective in collaboration. And this project seems like it might be a good first step. Small, tailored, targeted, but to have a opportunity to develop the core competencies within the board to do collaboration going forward. So use this as the opportunity to build the frameworks that can then be used to develop more collaboration going forward. So if the board is interested, I think SAC is ready to do a presentation to the board about this project in the February meeting, and we can discuss whether the board is interested in establishing some form of targeted responsive grant with respect to this particular project. I am open for questions.
I would, I'll defer to Robin here because this is her line of business, or was, but would very much be interested, just from personal experience. It's very hard to find a medical detox bed when it's needed. And I think there's others that would certainly want to collaborate, the hospitals in particular. I know we had an effort maybe 5 years ago with KU Med to take some of these people that present to their emergency room, and I'm sure Robin very familiar with somebody presents with the addiction problem, and there's no place else they can run up a bill in a day that would cover 30 days of treatment. So I'd very much be interested. I would, I'm sure the board doesn't need too much education on the need or what goes on, but more the financial side of it, the business side, cost to build and to operate. So Robin, I'll defer to you. You probably have firsthand experience with this.
Yeah, and I think the plan is for SAC to build the medical detox unit within the new ComCare Crisis Center that the county is building. They,
Yes, yeah, this is
Yeah.
the new ComCare, CCBHC, and SAC SUD
Right.
provider being co-located in one location.
they currently have for years had the social detox program within ComCare. This would be a huge added benefit to our community. There are two and currently a third one getting ready to open, but they're all for profit, take Blue Cross fully insured. Nobody takes Medicaid, and certainly nobody takes unfunded. As Pat said, the wait for those beds is long, as you all know. And currently those patients end up tying up ER beds and sometimes ICU beds in hospitals where the wait to get into a bed may be on the short side 24 hours, on the long side 5 days. That those patients who need a medical bed are spending in the ER because they can't get into the ICU bed or the medical bed. So it would be a great benefit, not only for the population that needs the medical detox, but for the rest of the community as well, to free up hospital beds.
Thanks, Robin. So, any other comments?
Mr. Chair, this is Sandra. So I concur with Robin, having worked in the treatment field in the Wichita area. This is could be a significant benefit. I am thinking from a board process perspective and perspective from other communities who might say, well, we want to do the very same thing because we have the same need and we have the same providers. And so, Chris, as I think about presentation and process and this a potential experiment for how we collaborate, I'm also mindful of messaging to other communities who might see this as outside of a grant process and fairness and all of that. So I would just want our conversation to include conversations about that. And it might be just me feeling a little bit hinky about it. So anyway, just food for thought for next meeting.
Yes, and I think that there were two ideas here that were associated with this particular proposal. And to be clear, we at the staff level are not advocating one way or the other. It's more wanted to make certain you knew this opportunity was here. One is that early on in the process, the board had expressed some interest in a responsive grant-making approach rather than this annual RFP approach to respond to specific needs that are presented to the board. So this is one way, an opportunity that where that particular approach may be helpful. Whether you open this up to multiple applications or really specifically seeking an application just from this particular project, that is a decision the board could make. The other thing is that this could be used as a framework to allow those to explore how to do those grants for those other members of the community. So those are just the two ways, again, not advocating one way or the other, just wanted to make certain that those were options that were presented to the board.
Pat, I'd like to say one more thing. The majority of those patients that are served in the medical detox are served at St. Joseph Ascension Via Christi St. Joe, where I was the president for several years. In my last year there, we served 78 Kansas counties. So I hear your concern, Sandra, but that one hospital serves 78 out of 101 Kansas counties. So I just think we need to keep that in mind. It is one of the only places anything basically west of us comes here, and really our catchment area ends at about Emporia.
Thank you. That's a great point. And I know we'll have some challenges. We're like a lot of things, just making this up as we go. And that's the great thing about the board, is that we're open to that. So I would say let's plan on them making a presentation in February, and then from there we'll have lots of options. And I'm this certainly is not a problem just in the Wichita area. There'd be surrounding the whole state is affected by not having these beds. So hopefully we can get a good enough collaboration effort. I'm thinking Ed O'Malley would probably be interested in listening to some of this, and some other, like I said, I know the hospitals would be. So we'll plan on their presentation. Chris, if you want to let them know that.
We'll reach out. The last thing I do want to let you know, and this was not on my original list, but one quick update for you is that there has been some press interest in the RFP3 and RFP4 process. So just know you may receive a contact from one or more reporters that may have questions for you just about the board process. Not certain that they will, but just wanted to give you a flag that there has been that interest. As well, there have been open records requests related to RFP3, and we anticipate the same would come for RFP4 once it's finalized today.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for Chris? If not, turn to Alicia and Krista. Updates on the needs assessment and anything with our RFPs.
All right, sounds good. I'll start with grant updates and then pass it over to Alyssa for needs assessment. So the RFP3 press release of those awardees went out. Hopefully RFP4 press release will go out soon after today. The letters of agreement are in process for all RFP3 awardees as well. RFP4 applicants have been notified if they were approved or declined, except for the one that you all are still deciding on today. We're in progress of hosting those feedback sessions for those unsuccessful applicants for both RFPs. So we have those scheduled and are working on those. And then the final estimated impact reports and project summaries will be available soon. We'll put that on the website once decisions are made today, and we can finalize that. We'll have those combined estimated impact reports and all project summaries for awards as well. And then we have 23 RFP 1 and 2 grants that have been completed, so their final reports have been submitted and approved. 20 of those have had their final payments processed and executed, so we just have 3 that are still scheduled for their final payment, so not technically done yet, but mostly done, just that final payment, which is contingent upon those final progress and financial reports. So that's exciting there. And then you all on the board can see all of those final approved progress reports and financial reports also within the portal if you guys are curious to see that. So I think that's all I have updates, unless anyone has any questions on grants.
Questions for Krista? Seeing none, Alicia?
Okay, good morning, everyone. So a few updates here about the needs assessment. So just wanted to confirm that we have moved forward with the 3-month extension. And so we logistically have worked out a majority of that with KU, and staff have outlined a tentative timeline for remaining project pieces moving forward. I say tentative in the fact that first off, we want to remain flexible to ongoing changes within the landscape and with individuals who would still like to engage with us. You know, we're still constantly coming into contact with people who are kind of just learning about it, and so we say tentative in the fact that we do want to remain flexible to continue to gather information. So we're really trying to find that balance between knowing that this project needs to wrap up and that it could go on forever. You know, that this topic is very deep and there's a lot of information to get. So we're finding that balance and have a plan moving forward on how to find that, how to get to that completion date in March. All qualitative data collection has been completed. So that includes interviews, focus groups, events, information gathered in that way within the past 2 months. And the KU team is analyzing the information and tying it together with the other quantitative data sources they've received. Additionally, they have begun focusing on summarizing current best practices across the US and internationally when relevant in research briefs. And so 95 of those have been completed so far, and those are really just short instances of really just having succinct information across the various areas on what those best practices look like. We are planning on incorporating those into the final deliverable as possible, and then that's also additional information, if not incorporated, will be on hand if needed. The only other piece I have is, there's obviously a lot of moving pieces happening, but we are working towards a formal public feedback process that will allow anyone to provide feedback on what has been learned and/or initial recommendations for future opportunities. So we're really aiming for this to be, I guess you can say, the last really big public engagement that we're going to be aiming for. And so that, what that looks like specifically, we're still talking with KU. We plan to have, our goal is to have that out by the end of the month, early February. And so that will be something that we heavily share, not only with the board, but across all of our partners, to really just get this information out in front of people and kind of have that last instance of, hey, this is what we found, this is what, or here's some opportunities that could be available regarding the settlement funding. What's the feedback we can receive on that? So that's really where Krista and I have been spending and focusing our time trying to get that going. And actually, I have one more that I just remembered. CPPR and I will be presenting at the MFAF event that Chris mentioned earlier. And so we will also be sharing the needs assessment results with them, heavily focusing on what opportunities are available for them that have been identified as potentially really good options. And so that will be something we're also going to be sharing with them pretty immediately. Any questions?
Questions for Alyssa? Alyssa, remind us of when is the 3-month extension? When's the end of that?
The end of March. We're planning for CPPR to have a presentation to the board at the April meeting.
Okay. There's lots and lots of information, which that's what we hired them to do. We'll think about this, and if the board has any opinion, it could be that we would maybe have a meeting outside of the regular board meeting to get a high-arching overview of what all information they have to present, and then have a follow-up with our regular board meeting or something like that, just to allow proper time and for the board to engage with them and to disseminate the information that they have, and also to get out to the board plenty of time for us to review before we do engage with them. So thanks for the update. Any other questions or comments for Alyssa? Thank you very much, both of you. Go to item number 5, and we had 2 of the requests that were approved subject to financial due diligence, applicant number 39 and applicant number 40. And we'll look to someone there, Krista, to give us the information on the financial due diligence.
Yep, there were no financial concerns found for either organization, so we were good to go with those 2.
Okay, and I think we already took action, if I recall, just subject to the due diligence. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Then moving on, this one we will need to take action on is applicant 34 was pending some information on their curriculum, what the population that they were going to have an effect on with their requests. So I'll defer to Krista if you want to bring us up to speed on applicant number 34.
Yeah, so they had, that curriculum was the same curriculum included in both their RFP3 and RFP4 application. As you recall, they were funded under RFP3, and so we just wanted to make sure that it wasn't a duplicative cost since it was the same curriculum. And they confirmed that they're serving adults with RFP3 and they're targeting school/youth prevention kind of focusing for RFP4. So it would be different populations, so it's not a duplicative cost. So that was also good to go there.
Questions for Krista? Seeing none, we will look for a motion to approve applicant number 34.
This is Sandra. I move to approve applicant 34.
This is Robin, second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Unanimous approval. Thank you. Item number 6, legislative education. I know Krista's been working on this and others. Krista, I'll just turn to you.
Yeah, so the one-pager testimony document, Chris and I worked on and ran that through the AG's office. So you see that there. It just needs to be updated now that final decisions have been made for all RFPs, that I can add in that number of grants into that number so that you guys have the actual final document. So I'll send that over to Connie. Then you also receive some additional talking points and whatnot if needed as background information.
Questions for Krista? We are also working with the Ways and Means Committee in the Senate and the Appropriations Committee in the House to make a presentation to them, kind of targeting the 21st of January during the first couple of weeks when they're back, where they're looking for informative type of testimony. So we'll keep you informed when we get that scheduled in case you happen to be around. Want to be there, but we are anticipating a 10 or 15-minute conversation with them and let them know what we've been doing as a board and where the money's been spent and so on and so forth. So we had several questions last year from legislators, and I know some of you fielded those as well as Sunflower and myself. So we'll kind of be proactive this year and just give a little presentation. So that's forthcoming. With that, I think we're about done. As I mentioned, in February, we'll plan to be in person, those that can, and if you can't, certainly encourage you to attend virtually. And that meeting will be on the 21st, and I believe we have the conference room, Connie, 152. We have that committee room for all of 2025.
Yes, we do, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we'll be same place, same time. Any comments or questions? Well, again, I want to thank everybody for taking time to be here. Happy New Year 2025 to everyone and to the staff. We will adjourn this meeting. Thanks for attending.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.